Good evening, everyone. Welcome to California Today. I'm David Zhang. Here is a look at some of today's top stories. Today is back to school day for many students. In LA County, over 500,000 students return to the classrooms for the first day of the school. Billboards are springing up around Los Angeles, but not with advertisements. They feature the faces of murder victims. California officials recently announced the largest ever drug bust operation involving illegal marijuana cultivation. But the local sheriff says it's just a drop in the bucket. Hundreds of thousands of students just completed their first day back to school in the LA Unified School District. District officials say the 2023 and 24 school year prioritizes education, safety, and student well-being. NTD's Stephanie Sikal hears more from a school principal.
About 500,000 LAUSD students began their school year today. The emphasis is on student success, safety, and vital support programs. The LAUSD offers important programs for students, like before and after school activities, arts, language, tutoring, mental health support, and provides free meals too. Superintendent Alberto Carvalho is proud of the food program, saying it's crucial to address hunger for effective learning. And he said, quote, "Our sacred mission is to make Los Angeles Unified the first urban school district of choice in the country." We spoke to Dolores Munoz, the principal of the Robert Hill Lane Elementary School. She tells us how her school prepared for the first day back.
Preparation for the first day of school starts at the end of the previous school year, but we have about 3 weeks to get our campus ready, to get our materials ready for teachers, and to have all of the details for the parents so that we can have a successful first day.
Munoz also explained the impact of the 3-day school strike back in March.
I feel that this is a big win because we do need to have our school nurses, we need to have our counselors. When you're a principal at a small school, the resources that the district sends are godsend because you can really meet the needs of the kids. And without that, it was a tight stretch. So now I'm excited.
Safety is receiving increased attention this academic year as well. Superintendent Carvalho said, quote, "Last year, our students and families faced unsafe pedestrian passages to and from our campuses, some experiencing injuries and others loss of life. Walking to school should not be a traumatic experience for our students." For the 2023 and 24 school year, LAUSD pledges to recover from COVID-19 impact in 2 years, offering more buses, upgrading cafeterias for healthier food, and parents will also be given access to resource centers the district has set up to inform about safety initiatives, tracking school buses via GPS, tutoring, child sick days, and more. This year, the LAUSD is fully staffed and all about improving and ensuring safety and providing a quality education district-wide. Stephanie Sikal, NTD News, Los Angeles.
New billboards are scattered across Southern California, but their purpose is far from the usual advertising. Instead, they feature the faces of murder victims. NTD's Christina Corona has more.
Los Angeles County officials held a press conference on Saturday below a billboard featuring victims of unsolved homicides next to the 605 freeway in Baldwin Park.
We stand here with the families of murdered victims, and we are calling on the community to help our investigators by coming forward with information to solve these murders. These are not just billboards, but a prayer for help from each one of these families. Our hope is that when somebody sees these billboards, they will see it, it will jog their memory, and they will be encouraged to come forward with any piece of information, no matter how small.
This is one of many billboards throughout Los Angeles County displaying the photos of murdered victims.
And so we need for you to tell law enforcement, give them the information that they need to help us solve some of these homicides. We know someone besides the murderer and the victim knows what happened. You might think it's little, but that little piece could be the biggest piece that they need.
Several families spoke out about the victims who were taken too soon.
This is my grandbaby. He was my first and only grandson back in 2016. He was murdered on July 6, 2016 in the city of Altadena. Somebody went by and started shooting. They shot 13 rounds, which they actually hit him. So he succumbed to his injuries on July 6th. If you saw something, say something. If you know something, say something. Don't be afraid. Please come forward and give us that closure that we need in order for the person that killed my grandson to be put behind bars.
DeAndre was a lovable kid. He cared for others. He was a hard worker. He worked at Cedars-Sinai Hospital where he had been working for 9 years. On July 17, 2016, between 6:30 and 7 p.m., DeAndre stepped outside of our home. And in the process of him stepping outside of our home, someone came up through the front and they gunned him down.
My son was Reginald Martin Thompson Sr. He was murdered on January 11th of 2022 on the corner of Imperial and Vermont at approximately 9 p.m. My family has been devastated. He has children.
For those who want to help and come forward with information on these cold cases, there are several tools in place to do so. Crime Stoppers is an organization that was put together in order to report criminal activity anonymously.
The Crime Stoppers app is 100% anonymous, or you can call the number and you remain anonymous, so they don't ask you any question about yourself and you give off that tip. It's very, very important, right? We want to make sure that we get criminals off the street so that there's no other victims.
If you want to remain anonymous, you could do it by email, with your email's encrypted, and you remain anonymous, or you could do it by phone and you can remain anonymous, and if you're worried about your safety.
Officials said there have been 3,500 homicides since 2001 and 1,800 have been solved to date. For any information regarding any murder, the community is urged to call Los Angeles County Sheriff's Homicide at 323-890-5500, your local police department, LAPD, or Crime Stoppers. Christina Corona, NTD News, Los Angeles.
Officials in California recently announced the largest ever drug bust operation involving illegal marijuana. But the local sheriff says it's less than 1% of the black market in his county. We now go to NTD's Jack Bradley to bring us the details.
Nearly $70 million worth of illegally grown marijuana was eradicated, and a dozen firearms were seized in Siskiyou County up in Northern California. The governor's office just announced the operation as the largest ever of its kind. But the county sheriff, Jeremiah LaRue, said even this hardly puts a dent in the problem.
It's only just a little dot, I guess, in the big picture. I mean, we probably have, anywhere between 2,000 to 2,500 different locations in our county that has cannabis growing illegally. And so this 68.5 million, it seems like a lot, but honestly, it's probably less than 1% of what we're seeing in Siskiyou County.
The bust targeted illegal growers that harm the environment and public. These grows use illegal pesticides and herbicides that are toxic to the environment and the user. But why is the black market thriving when recreational use is legal? Sheriff LaRue says that's because many legal marijuana dispensaries rely on the product from these illegal grows, as it's much cheaper to buy.
We know for a fact that the marijuana is making its way into dispensaries. So if you can imagine what that means is that when people go to a dispensary to purchase cannabis and they want to, ensure that it is safe and that they are free of pesticides as they should be, right now there's no way to guarantee that. And I think that should be a strong warning for people that do go and purchase cannabis, that they might actually be making, an unhealthy choice. And I think that the state needs to do a better job of ensuring that if things are going to be legal, that they need to be done appropriately, and that people won't be, ingesting pesticides that could potentially, lead to cancer or more significant conditions.
Sheriff LaRue says another reason for the booming black market cannabis industry is that the penalties for breaking the state's marijuana laws are just a fine, no matter the scale of the violation.
Right now, 10,000 plants is the same violation as 8. And that's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, people are going to excess because there's no penalty. And I think one thing that I think most people, most Americans would probably understand and agree with is that without laws, people will violate things, right? Some people need that structure. We can't rely on people's morals. You need to have some stuff on the books that you can really, sort of prosecute people for. And the hope is not to prosecute everyone, but if you have a law that you might get some jail time out of, or maybe be sent to prison for environmental damage, then maybe people will stop doing it, or maybe they'll be deterred.
These illegal cannabis grows continue to plague Siskiyou and its neighboring counties. LaRue says he appreciates the state's cannabis task force's recent crackdown, but it's going to take a lot more to solve the problem.
Remote work has reduced the need for office space. The governor now plans to transform vacant offices sitting along the Capitol Mall in Sacramento into affordable housing.
Governor Gavin Newsom announced on August 9th that unused office spaces in 3 government buildings in Sacramento are being renovated into 400 affordable housing units. According to Newsom, 50% of California's households cannot afford the cost of housing in their local markets. Sacramento Mayor Darrell Steinberg said, quote, "The transformation of these large office buildings on the Capitol Mall into housing will help Sacramento achieve 2 important goals, bringing more residents downtown and creating more places where people can afford to live." Plans include between 400 and 800 affordable housing units across the sites. Units will range from studios to 3 bedrooms, with 370 qualifying as affordable and 170 reserved for very low-income residents.
We'll now take a short break, everyone, but here's what we have for you when we come right back. A California town raising funds to help victims of the Maui Fire. Residents say they know the difficulties of rebuilding after wildfire. Cal Fire testing AI technology to help fight wildfires. The goal to spot fires before they grow out of control. A new gray wolf pack is being spotted. These wolves are now the southernmost pack in the state. Those stories and more coming up on California Today. Welcome back to California Today, everybody. I'm your host, David Zhang. Maui Fire victims are receiving help from a small California town that experienced a similar blaze 5 years ago. Residents of Paradise, California were devastated as a wildfire tore through their own town with similarities to the situation in Maui. NTD's David Lam spoke to a Paradise resident who lost his home and business.
Lahaina, Hawaii is a tropical island on the northwest coast of Maui, but recent wildfires near Lahaina have striking similarities to a previous blaze in Paradise, California. The Rotary Club of Paradise is sending prayers and has created a relief fund for Maui. Rotary co-president Dean Fender and Paradise residents also lost their homes and businesses in the 2018 blaze called the Camp Fire.
It's been 5 years and we're slowly recovering.
In 2018, the Camp Fire destroyed more than 18,000 structures in the town of Paradise. Fender says it's hard recovering from devastation like these fires.
It's not just losing your personal possession, it's losing your community.
Both Paradise and the Maui blazes moved quickly, leaving people with little time to flee. Both places were isolated with few roads leading in or out.
Our organization is, we've been through this before. Very similar. We lost 85 people in our fire. Many of them were my friends, and customers in my business. So, we are dedicated to helping them get back on their feet.
The two small towns have the grim distinction of experiencing the deadliest U.S. wildfires in more than a century. The Hawaii fire has so far killed at least 80 people and destroyed more than 1,000 buildings. People from Paradise say there's hope on the other side.
I can't say enough about getting help that they need, taking things slow, and having patience. It's going to take years for that to rebuild.
The Rotary Club previously raised $2.1 million and passed out 80,000 gift cards to those affected in the Paradise Fire. Fender said they hope to continue taking action for Maui, where 100% of the funds will be for relief. In Santa Clara, California, David Lamb, NTD News.
Could artificial intelligence help fight wildfires? California is testing out a new way to spot fires before they get out of control. NTD's Andrew Thomas has more on the AI alarm system.
Every minute counts to prevent a full-blown wildfire. Firefighters are typically alerted only when citizens call 911.
We're in extreme climate right now, and we need to leverage our funds and work together to mitigate the impacts of these natural disasters.
Now the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection has a more efficient approach. Engineers at the University of California, San Diego have developed a new system called Alert California. The platform uses more than 1,000 cameras throughout the state. AI monitors the footage for signs of a blaze.
I use the camera system to, once we do get a call, but if a detection is automatically happening, then that's what can be really helpful to us, because it's basically patrolling 24/7.
The system has already proved its potential. A fire recently broke out at 3 a.m. in the Cleveland National Forest. In the dead of night, the blaze could have spread into a raging wildfire, but Cal Fire says artificial intelligence alerted the on-duty fire captain. Within 45 minutes, the fire was out.
5-6 years ago, you'd have to send a battalion or an aircraft, fixed wing or rotary, out to confirm the ignition. So you'd get a 911 call. You'd have to go out and have eyes on the fire. Now you can spin a camera very quickly, determine if there's ignition.
The AI has already become more accurate in just a few weeks, as it learns to tell the difference between clouds, dust, and smoke. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
A report shows approximately 1.3 million California homes at risk of wildfire. The findings conclude that it will cost over $760 billion to rebuild those homes at risk.
CoreLogic found that it would cost more than $760 billion to rebuild approximately 1.3 million homes considered at risk of wildfire. The Irvine-based business intelligence and data analytics firm released the report on August 10th. It assessed such risk by analyzing a variety of variables impacting wildlife danger, including slope, fuel source, surface composition, drought, and winds. Cities in California facing significant risk include Los Angeles, with more than 240,000 homes totaling nearly $183 billion to reconstruct. Riverside, with approximately 213,000 homes costing almost $112 billion to rebuild, and San Diego, with about 154,000 residences, equating to $95 billion in assets at risk. According to CoreLogic estimates, inflation and increasing labor costs are impacting the insurance industry, as costs to rebuild destroyed and damaged homes have spiked by 33.5% since 2018. A senior product manager at CoreLogic told the Epoch Times, quote, "Wildfire is a very complex peril, but as insurers are dealing with the costs, they need to take the right steps to be able to account for that. What they're looking to do is maintain profitability while also providing insurance." Many insurers, including State Farm and Allstate, announced earlier this year that they are no longer writing new policies in California due to risk exposure and profitability concerns.
California at the center of the race for self-driving cars. San Francisco now allowing autonomous vehicles to drive passengers around, putting it in direct competition with other companies like Uber and Lyft.
Alphabet's Waymo and GM's Cruise received the green light on Thursday to expand their self-driving taxi services throughout San Francisco and to operate at all hours of the day. They are now competing with local companies like Uber and Lyft for paid taxi rides. The California Public Utilities Commission voted 3-1 on Thursday in favor of the two companies, which have been offering limited services restricted by times and geographic areas. State regulators sided with the companies after a contentious 6-hour public hearing. Transportation and safety agencies, such as the police and fire departments, as well as many residents, had opposed the idea, voicing concerns about erratic driving and interference with their operations.
No matter what they tell you, it's only a matter of time until an occupant is put at extreme risk by one of their cars. The very evening of the last meeting, a cruise car stopped for 3 minutes, almost between an active fire truck and a police car monitoring that scene. Imagine if a driver did that. These cars are not ready for prime time.
The benefits of having a human driver is that if I call a Lyft or an Uber, I can tell that the driver, I can text them and say, please look for me, I'm blind, I have a cane. And I don't know how I would communicate with an autonomous vehicle.
Those in favor of the expansion, tech experts and residents, argued that self-driving cars offer a safer alternative to human drivers and bring jobs and attention to a city in desperate need of a financial lift.
For those of us who are part of the disability community, autonomous vehicle technology represents a future with greater independence, the ability to go where we want to go, when we want to go, and to do so on our own without having to get into a car with a complete stranger.
Not only has being a Waymo-tested rider provided me with a level of independence that I have never been able to experience before, it has provided me with a feeling of safety that I've never had before.
After approving the expansion, the commission set out some guidelines. Waymo will be permitted to drive at speeds of up to 65 miles per hour, while Cruise will be limited to 35 miles per hour and will not be allowed to drive when weather does not permit. While the vote took effect immediately, neither company indicated on Thursday how soon they may roll out any round-the-clock taxi services, but they promised to do so soon in promotional emails after the vote. San Francisco is already one of the world's biggest test labs for self-driving cars. The companies had said real-world testing in dense city environments is essential to perfecting the technology.
New animals sighting a new gray wolf pack confirmed in the southern Sierra Nevada. These wolves are now the southernmost pack living in the state.
The California Department of Fish and Wildlife confirmed a new gray wolf pack has been spotted in the state. Gray wolves are native to California, but were eradicated from the state in the 1920s. So each rare wolf sighting is investigated by the CDFW. Fish and wildlife officials said these wolves were spotted in the Sequoia National Forest in Tulare County in July. The sighting was reported, and upon investigation, the CDFW found wolf tracks and other indicators of wolves. The new pack includes at least 5 wolves that weren't previously identified in the state, including 2 male and 2 female offspring. The CDFW said DNA samples indicated that the breeding male wolf of the 4 pups came from the Lassen pack. Gray wolves are protected under the California Endangered Species Act, which prohibits anyone from harming, killing, or capturing them.
All right, everyone, that's all we've got for you tonight. We would like you to join us again on California Today every weekday at 8 p.m. Make sure to check out our broadcasts at ntd.com/California-today. You will find all of our top latest clips there, ready to share with friends and family. Send us a message on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Gunji World, or through our email, california.today@ntd.com. If you'd like to share a news tip or let us know how we're doing, we'd love to hear from you. I'm David Zhang. Have a wonderful evening.